2, go.
Welcome to the Citystead.
Hey guys, how you doing today? Today we're going to talk about Comfrey. So when most people think of comfrey, they think of a giant bush that's kind of a nuisance weed. They get pretty massive. They're huge and they take over. They're very invasive. But to us permaculture enthusiasts, we know comfrey as complete gold.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Alright guys, so I am sitting in front of a giant comfrey bush. Now this was something that I took out of our backyard last year and I put up in the front, and it just got massive on me. Like, it's huge. It's taken over the entire area. We have a hibiscus, hydrangea. I'm not the flower guy. If only my wife was here to tell me what it was. Yeah, it's one of those. So it's really gonna block that thing from growing at all. So what I'm gonna do is move this. But before I move it, I was gonna talk a little bit about comfrey and why it is like the ultimate permaculture plant. Getting out of here. Careful, careful down the rocks. So many people know comfrey because it is known as like the permaculture plant. Like if you're gonna have any plant in your permaculture garden, orchard area, this guy right here is like one of the first things you're gonna put in. They're so hard to kill, they're super hardy, and they're just great plants. Now they have a ton of benefits. I know you can take these leaves and you can seep them and you can make yourself some fertilizer tea, and it's gonna be super potent, really help your plants out. Comfrey is a miner. These roots can grow 10 feet deep. That is a ton of root. That is a ton of, mining out of the ground for nutrients, and it does a lot of nitrogen pulling. So it's a high nitrogen plant. So if you're gonna start any kind of compost, putting these in your compost, putting these as filler in your garden, as overwinter cover, this is gonna restore all that nitrogen back to your soil. Being that those roots are 10 feet deep, they're really big borers, they also really help if you have compacted soil. So if you're somebody who's got a lot of clay type soil, you would want to put some of these in because they will help loosen up that soil, break it up, make it easier for you to use. Now, on the herbal side of this, people use this to make a lot of salves. And I've never done that myself, but I've heard about it, and it's supposed to be really good for healing wounds. Now, obviously, if it's too deep, you probably don't want to put this on here because if it, it might heal over top of your actual deep wound. So, but if you have some kind of cut or scrape, a salve with this will help close that up. Some people say it also helps broken bones. I don't really know, but it's supposed to help cells regenerate, so you never know. Coming over here, bud. Careful of the flowers. Right there. Yep. Squeeze in. Squeeze in. You're back.
Awake the pen. What's this?
So another good thing about this is that when you start digging it up like we're about to do, we're not going to get all of it. They're looking little roots that are going to stay in the ground, and those are what are going to regenerate and create more comfrey. So the super easy thing to split and get more of. It's like a free plant. Once you get one of them, you just keep splitting it and splitting it and splitting it, and you can have an entire field full of comfrey by the end of it. So we got to get busy and get this thing out of the ground. You ready to do some digging?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. This is how you can tell that it's a pretty young comfrey plant. It's not really dug into the ground yet. You see that one little shovelful, and I got another split already out of that. So you can see some of these root tubulars on here. They say that these are actually more potent than the leaves. Now, we're gonna go plant this back in our new permaculture garden area that we're working on. This is gonna be the powerhouse plant that we need it to be. Best thing about pulling it out right here, it did super well, so it must really like the spot. But there's enough root down in there that I am for sure we will have some more comfrey right here next year. And who knows, we might be digging that out too. So what we're gonna do with some of this is throw some on the compost to help break it down, because we just added a lot of stuff to our compost after weeding and kind of getting the garden cleaned up. And then we're gonna replant a couple of those into the new permaculture garden area that we are working on. Oh, careful, guy. And we're going to use that as a chop and drop in that area to really help us enrich our soil, because we're just starting in that area for garden wise. So let's go do that. Ready to get out here?
Yeah.
All right, to the backyard.
Where's that tub? Where's that tub?
Okay, so last time I did this, we dug it out in the middle of summer and we put it up in the front of the house there. And you can see how big and how much growth it had in just that short amount of time. So I think early this spring it's going to help us out. And if you are somebody who is harvesting these leaves to make a fertilizer, compost tea, some comfrey tea, you can cut these leaves up to 4 times a year usually. Some colder climates you might only get 3. Really bad times you might only get 2. But 4 times is definitely possible. You're talking early spring, you know, early summer, late summer, and then fall. So this is my plant that is going to kind of kick off my permaculture garden area, just because I know of all the restorative properties it has for the soil, just being able to chop it and lay it out here and restore all that nitrogen back into my soil. Also knowing that it's going to help build the soil, loosen it up, so that when I do dig into it to add things, it'll really help with that too. So we're going to just take our little root ball here, stick it down in the hole, now I'm putting both of them in this hole right here. I got a lot of space right here, so I know this thing can really grow out. It's not going to get in the way of anything else. And I have a couple other cuttings out of this one plant that we're going to put elsewhere. So we're going to start with this one. All right, and there we go. The permaculture garden is started. I think I can call that a start. I got nothing else done, but I'm going to call this the start. I'm super excited to have it over here, and we're going to water it, let it go, and pretty soon this thing will be massive like it was before. Probably even bigger. So another thing that I forgot to mention was that this comfrey is a really awesome plant to attract pollinators. This is one of the busiest plants I have in my garden, besides maybe the basil when the basil starts flowering. This is one of the busiest as far as bees. I see them over here all the time on this. They really like these flowers. I don't know if you can see them. They're actually a really pretty purple little flower, and it gets a lot of flowers on it, but the bees seem to love it. So having these in your garden is not just beneficial for the soil and what it can do there, but it also brings in some pollinators, which is what you need. You got to have pollinators in that garden. Got to have the bees, got to have butterflies, stuff like that. So this is a good plant for doing that. It helps attract them in there. So if you know anybody who's looking to build a permaculture garden or orchard or anything in permaculture, first you're going to tell them you got to start with trees, because we all know It takes a long time to get trees to produce for you. The second thing that everybody should be putting in after trees is some Comfrey. You really want this in your garden. Really good nitrogen fixer, perfect plant for compost, just an all-around super powerhouse when it comes to permaculture. So look for it. If you don't have any, try to find some. If you live close to me, get a hold of me. I might be able to split you some of this. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. We'll see you later. You want to say bye?
Bye.
That's it? Just bye?
Bye.
See ya?
Bye. See ya.
All right, see you guys later. We're out of here.